Ay, ay, yaday, day, yadaday, day, yadaday, yadaday, day, yadaday, dum. Yadaday, day, 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 yababay, yadaday, dum. Ay, yaday, ay, yaday. Yaday, ay, ay, yababay. Ay, 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 yaday, 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 dum. Yaday, 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 dum. Ay, 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 yaday, 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 ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 yaday, 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 yaday. Boker Tov, good morning. Another beautiful day outside. The allergies are in full effect, and the sun is shining, and the temperature in the air is warming up, and how beautiful it is to be able to wake up and say Moda ani lefanecha, that we are grateful for restoration of soul this morning, of life, of breath, of existence. And so this week's parsha, this week's Torah portion in our wisdom, in our infinite wisdom, is Ki Tisa. And the parsha says, but he said, you cannot see my face. And of course, he, meaning God, although that is not my reference point ever. This is the text. So know that when I'm saying it, it's only because it comes straight from Torah. But he said, you cannot see my face, for man may not see me and live. God said, see, there is a place near me. Station yourself on the rock, and as my presence passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take my hand away, and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. I'll read it again so that we can process it in our own mind, and then I'm going to unpack it, and let's see if we feel that same connection, or is it the way that we would have unpacked this piece of wisdom. But he said, you cannot see my face, for man may not see me and live. See, there's a place near me. Station yourself on the rock, and as my presence passes by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take my hand away, and you will see my back, but my face may not be seen. So right away, grappling with this text is the personification of God. This sounds like God is, in human form. I'm going to put my hand up. You won't see my face, but you'll see my back. It's very personified. So that part doesn't sit so well with me. But anyway, it's okay. This is what the text says. So let's unpack it. In the book of Exodus, we learn what holiness is. This Jewish spiritual practice is about being holy, demonstrating, displaying the attributes of God in our own lives. A person claiming to be steeped with spiritual practice and doesn't really manifest these attributes may possibly want to reevaluate their practice. So let's take apart the Torah verses, two of them, it's actually 2.5 verses of Torah, Exodus 33:20 to almost 23. Let's take it apart. No one sees me and lives. Our relation with God is like that of a candle to the sun. When alone in the dark, a single candle sheds a distinct light. Easy to visualize, right? But place that same candle in the light of day, and its light is eradicated in the greater light of the sun. When we stand in the shadow of self, we appear to be a light unto ourselves. But when we step into the light of God, our individual light vanishes. All of the shadow is removed, and the eye of our ego becomes oneness with God. The next part of the text says, there is a place next to me. What is the place next to God? Is this a place where Moses can see? Or is it a manifestation just of, not just to belittle it, is it a manifestation of the divine presence? Perhaps it's a spiritual level of awareness where we see the world as God does. Like, I'm putting you in this place for you to see what's happening. Next comes Moses' attempt to transliterate the experience of God into godly actions, which we can engage in. And God descends in a cloud and shields Moses, and Moses proclaims, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Emet. God, God. A God compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the 1,000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, yet does not remit all punishment, but visits the inequity of our parents on their children. Moses cannot find the words for the most profound reflection of God. He simply says, indescribable, indescribable God. Moses is left without words. That is not to be confused with his speech impediment, for certainly his mind, his brain, his intellect is intact, and he can't come up with the words. Because he reminds us that the essence of God cannot be reduced to language. The proclamation of 13 attributes of God are revelations, manifestations of God's presence in our lives and the world. They're part of our liturgy, but not a prayer. It's not a prayer, it's an awakening. Compassionate, gracious, patient. Are we all of those things all the time? None of us are perfect, but we work toward it. The godliness qualities of what it means to be holy. Yet does not remit all. When we chant the 13 attributes of God, Shalosh Esrei Midot, which are recited or sung on Yom Kippur and during the Torah service on Rosh Hashanah, on Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot. In our liturgy, we leave out this last section. It is taught that the ancient rabbis were uncomfortable with a God who visits the iniquities of one generation on the other. But Torah states God recalls the sin, not that God punishes, but it's the recollection of. So in this way, the Torah reminds us of another important truth, that our actions have consequences beyond ourselves, that spiritual practice cannot erase. We have to acknowledge the fact that spiritual practice alone doesn't wipe out that karmic aftermath of hurtful action that one generation leaves on the next. Spiritual practice alone does not wipe out the karmic aftermath of hurtful actions that one generation leaves on the next. Spiritual practice alone can't heal the wrongs of society, because guess what? With all of our davening, with all of our praying, with all of our spiritual practice, we should be living in a perfect world where societies are impeccable, working towards harmony and goodness, free of all things less than. Meditation and prayer alone can't feed the hungry and house the homeless and free the captive or heal an abused child. Our spiritual work supports, not replaces, our efforts on behalf of social justice, of psychological well-being. But holy and being holy requires of us to be whole on all levels, not just the spiritual one. There are people that have great spiritual practice, unbelievable, and then impeccable. And then they go out into the world and you wonder, was that just a show? Because how you are in the world is not reflexive of that which your spiritual practice speaks. This Shabbat is known as the second Rosh Hashanah. This is, when we read this Parsha, it's our reminder. We're going back in time. Let's look at it like our second Rosh Hashanah. Reflection, renewal, redoing, recharging, reconnecting. In Pirkei Avot, ethics of our parents, okay, maybe ethics of our fathers for those of us that don't want to change to see that clearly these things come from all people. Says, and we know it, it's not incumbent upon you to complete the task, nor are you free to desist from it. Judaism views all humans as team members. Team members in the greatest task of all. Research and development, a project for all of us, known as creation. Creation wasn't something that happened in the beginning of Torah and then that was it. It's created. Good, leave it there. It's done already. No, in fact, this project began long before we emerged and hopefully will continue to develop long after we depart. Goldie Milgram said this. Those were her words. Goldie, look at that. This project began long before we emerged, and hopefully it will continue long after we depart. We are just team members in this research and development project. The bracha, part of the Shema Ve'ahavta, teaches us, we say it over and over, 3 times a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, to love God with all of your passion, with all of your breath, with every fiber of your being. Take the words and join yourself to God. Pattern your days. Do it. Do it so that Torah oozes from your pores. That means the black lettering, and that means the white space. All of it. The expansion of that which is finite. Make it infinite. Find your way to be a role model. Encourage others. Incorporate the sacred into the regular, mundane monotony of life. It's kind of like practice what you preach. Before you know it, we will be the elders. We already are, some of us. Our teaching, our modeling, our doing, our continuous co-creation as we evolve as people, as humanity, God willing, will mend itself. And there'll be a time where we can turn and support and enrich each other and the greater community as a whole in God's world. Beloved friends, compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness beyond forgiving but not forgetting. That's our way in the world. That's God's way, and if we are part of God, then we too, that is our job in the world. Thank you for joining me, Lita and Suze, Paula, Elisa, Geneva, and whoever else is out there, because there's many more of you in my number, but have not signed in. It's grateful. It's a great experience, and I am grateful to have this experience with you, to be able to learn together, to be able to open up the conversation, even though it feels one-sided as I'm teaching. Hopefully you're absorbing and thinking and figuring it out. Good morning, Amy. Ways in which you can take Torah, take Jewish wisdom, Martine, take Jewish wisdom of tradition and bring it forward, 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 and forward again. Keep reworking it. You know, it's like a piece of pottery. If you've ever made pottery from scratch, I don't mean going to the painting place and decorating already fired clay. But if you've ever made a piece of pottery, you know. You get that slab of clay, you get some water, you start molding it, you don't like what it is, you pick it up, you slap it back on the wheel, and you start again. And you continue to do it and to build it until it looks as if it's right, and then it's done, you fire it, and it's probably not going to be exactly as you thought it would be. But you find beauty in that clay, beauty in that pottery. Even the cracks make it what it is. We are cracked vessels, but we do our work to let the light in and out for expansion and compression. We find our ways in the world. We are one human family, one heart of abundant love. We love you, and we'll see you back here, guess when? Tomorrow morning at 9:30. Let's continue to be here for one another, to learn together, to lift up, and to continue tradition along, passing it, working it, reworking it for ourselves and for others. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 O Ravinu Chai. Have a great day, everyone.